Town Hall Heroes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Town Hall Heroes, episode number 122. My name is Solid Jake, and this week we've got Lord Dunk and Lord Bakery joining us to talk about all of your glorious Heroes news. We're talking about the Heroes Brawl, which is basically arena mode, which was announced, last year, now finally being fleshed out, and it's coming very soon. We've got last week's patch that we're going to be talking about, the Zarya patch, which entailed the rework of Nazebo, Malfurion, Warhead Junction, and much more. How do we feel about it all? That's kind of the point there. HGC discussion. All teams except one have earned their spot for the global finals, the last final of the year. We'll be talking about that, the Korea finals, and all the good stuff behind that. And then if we do have time, we'll kind of sneak in a few viewer questions in the mix. But before we get rolling, Dunk Train. Hey, been, buddy?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Just kind of taking it easy. Played some chair league last night with the boys. Trickster J Howe got in there, played some games. It was an absolute blast. So that was fun. And, just watching some Heroes Esports.
The Heroes Esports dream. You even cast some, didn't you?
I did. I cast the Nexus games week 1 of the NA bracket, which was last weekend. If you missed those games, feel free to check them out. There were some upsets, like spoilers, Imported Support getting up 2-0 against Naventic in a best of 5. And then Naventic, of course, was having issues, so they had to forfeit and didn't play their losers bracket match, but it was interesting. And then we saw some really weird drafts, which I'm sure Bakery has strong opinions about, if he even saw them, but I'll let him talk about those.
Well, Bakery-kun, how you been, man?
I've been good. We've been kind of getting back into that practice grind for Nexus games, although haven't played too well in either the Showmatch or Nexus games. But we're working on it.
So is that in the Smash community we call that Johns, when you get completely dumpstered and then you have an excuse. Is that Johns for the Nexus games or the Showmatch, the Showdown?
I mean, we just have to focus on BlizzCon. We just don't have time to really commit to Nexus games. That's definitely the issue. It's not the fact that we're actually just playing bad. It's just we can't focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
Too busy counting their dollar bills before they go to BlizzCon, making sure they can slaughter all the nerds with full efficiency. Well, for me, we didn't have a show last week, and that's because all of my relatives were flying on in to lovely New England here in the fall season, and I got married. Woohoo! So
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. It's exciting. It's been a long journey with the waifu. I can call her waifu now. I think that's the best part of all of this, is I can legitimately say my waifu, and she hates it very much. Well, but without any further delay, let's just jump right into it, because we do have a lot to talk about here, and let's open up with the Heroes Brawl. Now, if you guys were following Heroes last year, you would know what the Arena is. Arena was a mode that Blizzard unveiled at BlizzCon 2015. It was the new mode coming that was basically, they said, would come out late 2016. And, I guess right before BlizzCon qualifies as late. So they didn't lie. And now we are finally getting this Arena mode, or the Heroes Brawl, which at BlizzCon was literally just, I believe, 2 battlegrounds, maybe 3, where the objective essentially was you would load in, it would give you a roulette. So it would basically give every player the option of 3 different heroes, and you'd lock in your team, and your team could be like 2 Novas and a Gazlo. So for example, one game Kubi and I played, it was me, Kubi, Zoya. Zoya got Gazlo, Kubi and I got Nova. Zoya would throw out the Gravo bomb, and then we double precision strike, and it was like super fun. So there's like it's definitely like bending the rules, but at the same time, it could have been like 10 Sylvanas in one game or 10 Illidan's. So they've embraced that idea. They've basically captured and run with that, but they've evolved it to include a lot more than just those rule sets. It's gonna be more like the Hearthstone Tavern Brawl. So sometimes you'll have a regular map where it's 10 Sergeant Hammers that all have thrusters at all times, and there's even some other cool things like one lane maps, ARAM style. But Dunk Bakery, how do you feel about this? That it's going to be like a set theme every single week, rather than just like queuing up for who knows what.
Well, obviously, as a model, it must work excellently because they've adopted it from Hearthstone into Overwatch and now Heroes of the Storm. So I have faith that they know what they're doing and they have the data to suggest that this model is the right one to go with. And I think it'll be fun. I think it's a good way to get your friends to play if they don't play Heroes, if they don't even play MOBAs. It should be interesting, and I think it's good for the game.
Bakes?
I mean, I really like the concepts, but the whole like weekly thing, I'm a bit concerned. So the thing for me is if it was like, okay, so this week it's the arenas and you get to play like Shrines, Sky, and like the Garden one, like you alternate between those three, that I think would be really cool. But I'm a bit scared of just having, okay, it's only Sky Arena like this time.
Yeah.
And then it's literally just a whole week of only Sky Arena. That I'm a bit scared of that, but no, I definitely agree with Dunk. Like it's a pretty proven formula at this point from Hearthstone and Overwatch. So
In
can't be
terms
that
of
bad.
the actual different game modes, like, do you think they've covered everything, or have you immediately theory crafted new game types that you think you would like to play?
I think they just have a lot of room with this system to do whatever they want. Like some of the ones they've previewed so far have been like cool in theory. Like the Nova one shot snipe one sounds like something I would really enjoy playing
Uh huh.
because I like that hero and I feel like that's like escalated it to the maximum possible like what is going on level. But I
Wait.
think
What if it was one shot Tyrande Owl Snipe?
I
Okay. Anyways,
feel like at that point you're getting a little silly. At least Nova can block snipes with Hollow Decoy,
that's
but
fair.
I think there's a lot of room to do cool stuff. It's just I do agree with Bakery. I'm concerned about the one game style per week format getting stale because that was always a problem for me with those other games that use that same system. And that's what I meant. Like they probably have the data that shows that this actually gets people engaged in playing, so I'm okay with it. But yeah, I mean, it's not something where like I can't imagine personally grinding this mode for like every single day on the week, but I could see logging in once a week and playing this mode, and then maybe that gets other people invested in playing real heroes. So I think that's hopefully what happens and hopefully what they're looking for.
Well, with the rewards they're giving, I think you need to win 3 games in the mode. So at least they're trying to incentivize you to play more than one game. With Tavern Brawl,
Yeah.
you win the single game, you get a classic pack. For some people, that's not even enough reward to get people to play it anymore. For Hearthstone, I know that for a fact. But for the new players, for the people that are getting into the game, it's still an amazing resource. But
I wonder if they'll go as far as like starting to get, really serious custom games in, like from Warcraft 3. I would like to see, some Warcraft 3 customs converted into, Heroes of Brawl games. Like on Reddit, there's already a post about X Hero Siege. That was one that I enjoyed that like could get converted pretty easily, I think. There's like, you could do a lot of things, I think, that are basically custom games and shouldn't take that much development time and port them into this. But I don't know if they're willing to go that far of like just completely abandoning MOBA gameplay style in these brawls.
okay. I don't know if we'd ever get the full Warcraft customs. That's a dream, but who knows? Because I believe now. Okay, I could be wrong because I don't play around in try mode too much. But I was toying around with try mode today just because like I wanted to see if I could stress the game out, because this new patch that came in last week, I haven't had any time to play it myself because I've been doing wedding stuff. But from what I can tell, the game performance, like just how the game runs on my PC, has gone up exponentially. Like my PC should handle most games like a beast, but honestly, Heroes did not run that well. I was getting 40, 50 FPS, but I should be getting about 120. And since this patch hit, my games were running beautifully, and I can't make it stutter for a second. But when I was throwing around in try mode, again, I don't use try mode often. Have you always been able to choose game speed? Like
No, that was the Zarya patch, or okay, maybe not Zarya patch, but it's very recent. It's like within the last two patches.
Okay, but like regardless, you can choose game speed now. You can select an enemy hero that you want to fight, and this is stuff that I wasn't even aware of until today. And all of these little bits, like the fact that I can just change the game speed and make it ridiculous, and spam abilities, and it just looks kind of absurd. You see how well it runs and stuff too. That does give me a fair bit of hope for like more options, right? This just kind of like. This can allow me to test things better. I can really get a good feel for numbers. I can get a good feel for combos. But just this additional like utility, even in the try mode, maybe that does, would lend itself towards a more custom game mode style thing. Who knows? But I love watching this game on super high speed. It's actually super silly.
That'll probably be a brawl mode.
Yeah, who knows? It's totally an option. Rip, I hit the wrong button. It's a nice look at the little forts over there on the side. But, okay. Well, that's basically what's going on with Heroes Brawl. I think they did a really good job with the launch. I'm glad they're not just gutting some of the things from before. They've just built upon and added even more. And it goes on the PTR in 5 days. So if you want to get your hands on it, you want to try it, 5 days from now, you can jump on in. Ever since they announced Arena Mode at BlizzCon last year, I had created this whole big grand plan for like a really like fun, casual esports kind of thing for it. Really designed to just be fun and like to try to bridge the gap between your average Heroes player and your average esports fan. And that's, there's definitely not a whole lot that helps bridge that gap. And I'm hoping to create some kind of weekly thing that utilizes the new game mode to make that a reality. But that's just kind of on my to-do list right now for Arcane 8, because something I felt very strongly about for Arena Mode, and we'll see what we can make happen for this new mode coming out. But let's jump on over to the new patch that has been active for just over a week now. Bakery, you've played multiple events in it. Dunk, you just cast this past week, the Zarya patch, and I have been not on my computer at all. So I'm going to be straight up about that. And I did play the PTR a fair bit though, so I do have a decent bit of in my own opinion when it comes to some of the heroes they tweaked, specifically Nazebo and Malfurion. They both seem really good, but Malf seems kind of OP compared to what he ever once was. And Bakery Kun, I'm going to start with you actually. Do you think roots are finally like a playmaking ability, and is that enough to make Malf like really good?
Okay, so I said to a lot of people at Blizzard at the community summit a decently long time ago, like, please just 0.25 second delay mouth roots, give him like, I think I said 10 to 20% more range just so he can follow up like a Mirrodin, like from a safe distance. Like, he'll be a fantastic hero. And that's about what they did. I think it was 12% on, it was either 12 or 15 for the root range increase, and it was 0.25 delay now. And he's absolutely insane. Like, the roots are actually insane with the level 4. It's like cross map. It's
I don't know if it's cross map.
it's quite a long range. But yeah, I think he's pretty silly right now. I think a mistake that we've been seeing them make more and more recently actually is that they kind of do everything at once, and then it's kind of insane. So like Zarya with her buffs, they buff like 3 things at once, all relating to her damage, and then they turn out to be far too aggressive. Like, it's the same with Malf, where they buffed his heal cooldown, his heal speed, and his roots. And again, it's turned out to be pretty insane.
Yeah, it seems like in general, the balance team has not done a good job anticipating the effects of multiplicative changes to a hero, like you're mentioning with Zarya and Malf, and just in general. It seems like a lot of times balance changes are made, and then balance changes just keep getting made long after, like, there's not enough time for it to settle. If you look at Greymane, for example, like, Greymane was dominating, yeah, and then not only did it take a long time before Greymane got tweaked, he got tweaked, and then he, like, just kept getting back to back to back to back to back changes until now, like, you don't even see him in competitive. It's, like, kind of weird.
So, do you think like they need to scale Malf back, and if so, how?
I think increase the cooldown on his heal or lower the actual number itself. Like I'm not sure what you think about this, Dunk, but I feel like his sustain is kind of silly right now.
Yeah, I try not to talk too much about sustain anymore just because I'm very much not an advocate for sustain in general in the game. Like, and I think Malf is a really bad offender right now where you just put hots on a lot of people and it's a ton of sustain, but it's it's really powerful, but it doesn't feel like the right kind of impactful in my opinion. So I really dislike it, but I've felt that way for a long time, and I think this just made it a little worse rather than like creating a problem that didn't exist before.
That's interesting. All right, let's flip it over to Nazebo a little bit. Nazebo, they've really tried to make some bold changes to him. Gargantuan, they've reworked the functionality on that. The spiders that you need to actually hit them, but they seem, like it's not just meaningless damage or like decent siege. It's you can actually get the spider focus and have it seem like, yes, that target might die. And with heroes like Ariel in the mix, in a way, he can function similar to a Lunara. Is Nazebo in a position where he could have some viability?
I don't know. Personally, it looks like he's too reliant on W build and W talent at 16 especially, like to be a real hero. That was my impression of watching him played in the one game he got played in the Nexus games, and I only played like one game with him because I just
You hate
didn't
Nazebo.
really like it.
You hate
I
Nazebo.
don't hate Nazebo, but like
I'm so
I
offended.
I don't know. He didn't make me feel some kind of way when I was playing him, so I just didn't play more games with him. Have you guys experimented with him at all?
I actually really liked the style that this rework is in, but I just feel like he's super weak. We played one game with him in competitive, and Snitz already wasn't too big a fan.
Yeah.
We play this game, and we're winning like really really hard. We're like 2 or 3 levels up, and then we have this fight where it just seems like nobody's taking any damage at all. Like they're just like still full HP, and we end up like running away like all low ourselves. So I'm like, oh, what happened there? And then we all press tab, and it turns out Nazebo is doing like 30k, which is like less than our Brightwing. I'm like, okay. Nice. I guess Nazebo is not too great. So we haven't actually played him since that game. But in my opinion, his numbers just aren't up to scratch. I really like the concept. I think it's a lot of fun to play.
I'm really curious as like if somebody figures out what his build's going to look like, because I've actually played a lot of Nazebo more than any other hero in this patch, just because I like really want to see where he's going to end up. And based on what I've done so far, I don't actually see the full like spider build being very good. I don't like the frog build unless you're going against like a heavy melee comp and you've basically failed at your draft and you went Nazebo and you need to try to find sustain, and then you just go for the resistance. But I think when you go like things of the deep and like the actual zombie the dead rush and stuff, there's something to be had there. Like you can actually kind of get an overwhelming amount of units flying forward, and against certain heroes, it seems to be like kind of a weird like a weird style to play, but it can have an impact. But who knows? Nazebo is definitely better than he was, but I'm excited to see if somebody can make him work. Let's talk about Zarya and just kind of the overall approach Blizzard has had to Zarya, which has been rather unique. We've seen a lot of heroes come out and then not get a whole lot of love. Even as we were setting up the show, you guys were like, man, imagine if Gul'dan got that treatment, because Zarya was out for, I don't know, 2 days before she got hotfixed with a monster amount of love, pretty much buffing her in every regard. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like triple dipping on the damage buffs. It's pretty insane.
And it was really funny as someone who was, on the road a lot, visiting, relatives, and seeing all the threads like, wow, Zarya's trash, or like talking to people on Skype and just being like, she's an utter, like, worthless hero. Why would you ever pick her? There was even a Reddit thread put up just like, these are Zarya's numbers compared to everyone else's numbers, and it just didn't add up. So then the big love came through, and then everyone's like, Zarya needs to be banned. She's way too powerful. This is ridiculous. Like, what was that moment of swap like for you guys as just as like Hero League warriors?
I don't know. I didn't actually play Hero League like right when the patch hit. So I didn't play on Thursday when Zarya got the huge buffs, and then by Friday she was already tuned back to reality from the stratosphere. So I don't actually know what that patch was much like playing. I just played it in try mode, and I was like, okay, this is unacceptable, and then like logged off because I didn't even want to play a game.
Damn. Bakery?
So, like, pre-buffs, we played a bit around with her. I think Jay and Athero tried with her. Jay thought she was absolutely terrible. Athero was a bit more optimistic, but still didn't think it was very good.
Mm-hmm.
And then our general opinion within the team was that it was really bad. And then we see the buffs and we're like, wow, she must have been so bad before. And then we played with him. We're like, oh wait, she was actually probably okay. It's just now, like, she's insane. I think, like, I said it a bit earlier, but just the triple dipping on like the same area, it's a dangerous. The dangerous thing to do, and they didn't handle the risk well, I don't think. Mm-hmm. But I do like the way that they opted to nerf her after they realized it was really far too strong. I think the energy decay is definitely the way to go about it.
Yeah, even just like a day after the buff, they did that nerf, right?
Yeah,
yeah. I think it was within 24 hours. It was like back down again.
It's an interesting choice of where to target. I agree with you. I think it was a really good place to target the nerf. I think the only other place she could maybe get looked at is not make the damage ramp up so severe. If that makes sense. Like right now, I feel like at no energy she does literal nothing, and then at max energy maybe a bit too much. And while you want to keep that dynamic, it's maybe a bit too far. That's the only other thing I would say, but I agree with you. The decay was a good place to target the nerf. Do you not agree with the energy thing?
Who, me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I really liked the energy. I thought that was like 100% the correct thing to target. The what you said about at zero energy doing, I'd have to think about it. Like, I see. Here's the thing: is I feel like the counterplay to her is fighting at the zero energy, because like fighting once she's full is obviously a no-go.
Yeah,
fighting when she's at zero should be a really good time for you. And if they kind of fix that, like the difference between 0 and 100, then maybe she'd be a lot less dynamic to play with and against.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a valid opinion. I agree with you that having more clearly indicated like power spikes and like uptimes and downtimes is good for the game. But Zarya doesn't really fit into the style of a lot of them, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like if you look at a lot of the buffs in the game, they're like slower and like less insane. Like if you look at Rain or W, for example, it's like low impact but high duration. And then like you can make it high impact with like the move speed talent, but overall there's not like a timing window where you see like, oh, Rainer's Inspire is down, we should fight. Like that's not like an actual timing window that exists, right? So Zarya kind of I think is going in the right direction, where she actually has a timing window where if you look and say, oh, she's at 0 energy and she just missed her shield ally, like now we can just crush the fight. I think that's really healthy, but I think maybe it's just a tiny bit too far. Like from like tripling the damage maybe is too much, like is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I definitely see your point, but it's difficult without actually testing it with new numbers.
Yeah. That's cool.
All right. Well, I mean, actually, just one little note. Cattle said in chat that they had 100% win rate with her pre-buff, but that's NA scrim, so we're just going to take that with a grain of salt, Cattle. Thanks for the insight. All right, so Zarya, obviously, she's doing pretty well at this point in time, but Malfurion, he's risen a lot in popularity. Do you still hate Brightwing just entirely, Bakery? Do you think Brightwing is just trash?
I don't think she's trash. I think if I was to tier supports, it would go Malfurion, Brightwing, Oriole. But I just really hate the Brightwing style still. I feel like I feel it's a lot about the meta shift, like stuff like Jaina and Greymane having fallen out almost completely. If they were to come back, then Brightwing would really struggle, I think. But right now, there's not a lot of high impact burst damage that isn't spell damage. And once you get 13, you can obviously counter that with Brightwing. But yeah, just in general, I feel like support's actually really boring right now. Like, it seems to be the kind of sit back, AFK, let your heals make everyone fall. Rather than the kind of high impact things we've had since spring.
So this is interesting. You think Ariel falls in the first category you're talking about, the like sit back way, as you're playing it right now, at least? Like you don't think Ariel is like a super exciting like frontline make things happen? Like obviously not frontline, I'm exaggerating, but like you think that right now you're playing more passive than you were in the past? With Ariel specifically? Like of course Malfurion is way more passive. Like I won't argue that at all. But like I'm surprised you feel that way about Ariel.
I don't feel that way about Oriole. I think like here's the thing is if you play like Lunara or Hammer Oriole, then you can sit back, and that's right now what the optimal way to play her looks like to most European teams. But I think you definitely can go high impact with Oriole, and we have been playing that. And that's why she's my current favorite support. But yeah, just the other two, and then looking past that, it's probably Medic that you're picking in that fourth slot. They really are just sit back and kind of do nothing. Yeah,
I agree. I think that the sequential removal of Kael'thas and Greymane, and you could maybe argue Jaina, she wasn't in the meta as much, but she's also not in the meta. So like those are like your three big burst heroes, and they're gone now. And I feel like the only burst hero in range that exists right now is Li Ming, and then you have all sustained damage across the board for the rest of the heroes. And I think that's what helped shift the meta towards like those slow sustaining healers.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Do you think there's any room for Chromie after the buffs she got? I mean, it's not like the biggest of buffs, but do you think she has a place, or will all the other like heroes like Li Ming still just function better than her?
Chromie still makes me nervous with their lack of PvE impact.
Yeah, I was just about to say about the PvE. Like, I played a game on Battlefield earlier. We were like double their kills. The Chromie herself had like 30k damage over the next highest. Like playing really well, like 0 deaths and everything. And we would get a kill, and then we would lose the immortal phase 4v5 consistently for 30 minutes, and then we lost the game. It's just so hard to play like with a hero that literally doesn't PvE.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, what about Gul'dan? He's another hero that we were just talking about. Like he also got a bit of love in the Zarya patch that just came out. And, he does a little bit less damage to himself. His Fel Flame is a little bit larger. Is it enough to, like, nudge him up to the point where that the battle mage that they've tried to make, seemingly, is impactful and viable?
He got tweaked in the Zarya patch?
Yeah,
I think so.
They put a lot of patch notes out after the PTR. And I can put it on screen here. So Life Tap does less damage to him. Bigger Fel Flame.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Corruption with less cooldown, less mana. And that's a decent change, 14 seconds on corruption, considering that's a huge part of his damage when it comes to the actual team fights.
Yeah. I think all of those changes are very good for him, but I still don't think it gets you there. Like, his range is still a problem relative to his impact.
I actually have an opposite opinion. I think cooldown's really, really good.
Huh.
Not top tier. I think Li Ming, Hammer still quite far above. Valor probably above him. But once you get past those three, I honestly think I'm looking for a cooldown in that situation. I think his poke's really quite good. I think in an actual fight, it doesn't seem like much, but it's a lot about thresholds. I think the Q buff it's gone from being in auto attack range to being very slightly out of.
Okay.
And that's the big thing for me, is that it now feels like he can use his Q to poke without taking return damage, which it never felt like in the past. That might be a play thing. People just got better, but no, I actually think it's
Orb is going to be a less AoE. Li Ming's going to be more of just a 1v1 in a lot of situations. I mean, her orb's still going to have big impact, but it's not going to be quite what it was. Oh, that tree.
Yeah.
We got the tree. We got the broccoli. Sorry, I like beating up on Arthas too much.
Interesting.
All right. Well, going down the list, I mean, Li Ming, basically the arcane orb, the size and the damage, it's all, or not the damage, but the max size and the radius has all been reduced. So they're just trying to basically make that her crutch, right? She doesn't necessarily have the same kind of lane clear a lot of the other mages do, and they're expressing that even further by nerfing the orb a little bit, just in its size. It's still going to be like huge, like burst damage. If you line up the orb and the Q and you hit that target, it's going to feel like boom, and it's going to feel badass. And I'm really happy about those changes. Do you guys agree, or would you guys like to see them be a little bit more severe with Li Ming, considering how prominent she is globally?
I think the changes are really smart. Like, I think this has made her W. It needs to be used more intelligently than before. I feel like it was just throw off cooldown in a lot of standoffs before, and especially with the kind of poke stall meta that we have that I was saying about a bit earlier with the supports. Like, that was a really good play style. Since it's smaller, it makes it easier for the ME team to dodge it. It makes it harder for her to actually intelligently line it up so that it will hit. But I still think she's too strong. I think she's just too slippery. She's too high damage. She's too punishing for mistakes.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I agree. I think this is a good direction to nerf her, but I do agree with you. I think that mostly the only thing that really bothers me about Li Ming anymore is, like you said, punishing for mistakes. Like, specifically the oops, I killed someone with like a combo landing. Like, that's the thing I have a problem with. The like, oops, someone just died from 65% health. And like, then the fight is just over. So that's the only thing.
Like, the thing for me is if Li Ming gets a kill, I want her to get another kill to be rewarded for that. Like, that's the style of hero. But I don't want her to then get 3 more on top of that. Like, I just want it to end at some point.
So you want like a cooldown on the reset. So like maybe she can get a reset, but there's a 30-second cooldown on it or something, like for her actual trait.
Is that what you're interesting?
I mean, I really like the resets. I think honestly, the thing that I would more like to see, although this is clunky, and I'm not saying it should be added, I'm just saying I'd like to test it, is a debuff on her second reset, which is 25% less damage with all skills, and it stacks.
But how long would that like debuff exist for?
5 seconds, I'd say. Maybe longer.
Because like thematically it makes sense, because typically like you think of a mage that's throwing out all of their best abilities. I'm just thinking of like book nerd status right now. You throw out your next wave of spells and you're running out of juice, right? It should be feeling a little bit weaker. So I don't know. I'm thinking of like Harry Dresden right now, Dunk. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not going to throw that Hellfire out and then have the same Hellfire for the next blast, right? But uh, anyways, yeah, who knows?
Interesting mechanic.
She's pretty good. She's pretty good, that's for sure. And we'll see if the orb radius change does impact the number of monster plays she makes. Will it affect her win rate? Yada yada. Butcher Furnace plus cooldown down to a minute. They're trying to just bring that back into play. Lem to the slaughter ever since they brought that up. Has been quite dominant. You know, having that silence, you put a target in. I'll tell you, if you're playing a Zebo and you're laning against a Butcher, he hits level 10, you swap lanes. He will kill you. If you step out too far, you will die no matter what. Because Lamb is just pretty darn good. But I think the Furnace change is fine. I think it's good. I'd like to see more of that. Tychus got brought even tankier, and the also he now gets resistant when he's in the Odin. So the Odin has that additional little buff to it. I think they're still planning on doing more to it, unless that was announced in the patch prior to this. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? They posted on the BattleNet forums they wanted to give Odin some love. I don't remember if that was pertaining to if that was said during this patch or prior to this patch.
I think it was prior.
I think it was prior.
Okay, so
but
this
I don't know if this is all of it, but I feel like Tychus is insane right now.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I've always felt like Tychus has been underrated. Like recently, I think I said last time I was on TownHall. Actually, I thought NA should pick more Tychus.
Yeah.
And these buffs, I'm not really sure why they're coming, but he feels pretty great right now, honestly.
I think he's insane. So, like, when you were saying that, like, Lunara and Sergeant Hammer are, like, some of the top DPS right now in Europe, like, I couldn't believe it, because I think it's, like, Tychus and then Vala. Like, Tychus and then Vala Li Ming, and then Lunara, Sergeant Hammer. Like, I don't think any of the other ones are even close to Tychus.
Jeez.
Unless you, like, specifically, like, first pick Tychus and the enemy drafts around it, but I don't even know how to draft around it at this point. It doesn't feel like anyone can solo frontline or duo frontline against him.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, we've been seeing the increase in play pretty much everywhere out of Tychus. He didn't see the most play in the last couple NA events, but it's starting to climb up more. And I mean, they've been using him for a while now in Korea, and he continues to maintain a strong position there. Vala, though, is a hero that, you know, she got reworked the patch prior to this when they released Alarak, and Vala became a one build hero basically with her multi-shot style. But going into the Zarya patch, so she has received some tweaks. The damage bonus per stack of hatred has increased up to 6%. That's after the vault bonus. They're trying to buff hungering. Reign of Vengeance, they reduce the cooldown. There's a bunch of nice little tweaks here, but I have not tested her at all. I'm very curious. Does she feel like she has multiple styles of play since this patch?
No.
That's a nice black screen I put up there. I meant that to be the actual patch notes.
I wasn't sure if that was just for us or like.
No,
so I didn't want to say anything,
Game Stream TownHall radio show. Oh, you guys all got to have that audio only experience, just like some of our iTunes viewers. But so Bakery, she's still one trick pony in terms of her build.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think it's the same issue we had last time with Vala, where multi-shot is just too safe and too much damage. Even in some situations where short auto attack will be good, you'd get roughly the same damage with multi-shot, I'd say, and you get on more important places like the backline. So I think it's just a better build.
L Dunk, any opinions?
I'm just reviewing the Vala changes. Like I don't think it's enough. I think I agree with Bakery. Like the damage from multi-shot is just too consistent. It's not worth going for like a riskier style. There's not enough payoff.
Well, rip. Rip Vala and build diversity. I'm lost. I decided to control F iTunes viewers just to see if that was in the patch notes, and it's not. And now we are going to just skip through Nazebo because we've talked a bit about him last week in this. Karazim, they're giving him the additional sustain at level 13. Bakery, I mean, I'm sure you miss having the stun reduction, but a 75% damage mitigation feel like enough where Karazim is still going to be a viable option.
Honestly, no. I think this is basically like at least it's better than Spell Shield now against actual auto attackers. But even then, I still feel like just a lot of burst damage in the game right now is not coming from autos; it's coming from spells, and that's the thing you should focus on trying to avoid, I think. So I still wouldn't take this talent in all but like Verse Hammer Valor, I guess. Even then, I would highly consider Quicksilver. I think that's actually a really good talent, especially if the mount speed changes. It's literally mount speed now.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty good. But Karazim just in general a pretty bad spot. He seems to get out sustained by Brightwing in like a lane setting. He can't really auto attack the minions too much anymore without having pressure on the lane. If you have pressure on the lane, you may have as well picked Medic, who has higher sustain and also has the same kind of counterplay, but doesn't need to stand in the front lane. Yeah, just in general, I feel like he's really not consistent.
Do you think he needs some kind of CC? Because he's one of the only supports that has no actual stun or rue or anything at all in his kit.
I think, honestly, he just needs more damage. Ever since the scaling changes, they kind of cut back on his damage a lot. And he's always never been the same since then. And I think just giving him damage, I think, solves a lot of the issues. Okay. It makes him have threat in the front line, and you need to actually pay attention to him in skirmishes. Whereas right now, it's pretty much just you ignore him.
Yeah.
You let him heal, and then that's right.
I mean, even 7-sided doesn't feel impactful anymore. In
various situations. 7-sided definitely still feels impactful. It still does a lot of damage, but
at least in NA, it always seems to be like more of a dodge than an actual damage dealer.
Ice block, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like ice block.
At least in NA. Okay, well, rip Karazim. Bakery, you were relevant once. It was nice knowing you.
I was good once.
Yeah.
I missed the old bakery.
Bakery, can you tell us whose hand that is?
It's the first hand that came up from Googling hand.
So, do you have copyrights to that hand?
I don't think so.
Better call your lawyer, Bakery.
I actually lied. It's like the third hand that comes up.
Jeez, whose hand is it?
I just googled hand. I went, that's a nice hand. And I took nice. I took a selfie of me when I was like saying, "Oh guys, we qualified for Korea" or something. I looked super happy, so I just took that one, like put the hand over it, and then like scribbled out all the edges so it's like transparent. I was like, hell yeah, that's the emote.
Dece. That's Dece.
All right, moving down the list. Let's talk about the panda. Let's talk about the fat Illidan.
Yeah.
Where's Chen sit? Bakery.
I think just below the tier 1s in terms of tanks. I think he's really pretty scary right now. He seems to do a lot of damage. And he still seems pretty hard to kill, especially with well-microed pandas. Like, playing against some Chens today, I feel like people are finally getting the hang of actually microing the pandas and keeping the one that you respawn on at the back and using the others to generate a lot of the pressure.
So it's all about the panda micro now. Panda Pals is back, boys.
I think Chen is really good right now. I agree. who do you? You don't have to answer this because coming up on BlizzCon and such. But who do you actually think are the better tanks than Chen, or would you rather not say? I feel like he's really strong. I'm not sure how all the top tanks break down. Like between Murden, ETC, Chen, kind of Johanna. Like I'm not really sure where they all actually fall. I think they all have strengths and weaknesses, which is a healthy place to be. I'm not sure if you feel the same.
I feel like Mirrodin's pretty much generally just the best tank in a lot of situations, but
Yeah.
outside of that, like, yeah, I think actually Chen is situationally the second best tank in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
In quite a few situations.
if we had to compare Chen to any hero in their like prime, would you say he was akin to like Sonya when she was like the bruiser to go to, or what? What do you think? Where do you think Chen sits right now?
I don't know if Chen is like I don't know if Chen's current state is like equal to the most broken any heroes have ever been state. Like I think he's just really good right now. Like he's not even as good as his old self where he had like root kick and triple damage auto. Like he's not that good. Like he's not broken right now. I feel like he's strong, but not like oppressive. I mean, he's got insane matchups against some backlines, I would say, but not to the point where you just feel like you don't get to play the game against Chen or whatever. So I don't think he's at that really broken level.
It's definitely that old style there.
Yeah.
It's just
more like
it's actually fun to play against this time. Maybe that's because like more backline are actually better at handling themselves as opposed to like Tychus when you had Odin with no dash. So you just kind of got stuck in the Odin, dying to 3 pandas sitting around you.
That was funny.
I remember old Falstad matchup versus Chen.
And his E, if you hit him at any point, he would go back to the start of the E when you had root kick.
Mm-hmm. Oh god. That was a weird interaction. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Chen's solid.
Well, the Panda Master has risen up a fair bit, and he's one of the many that got changes. New ETC. How do you guys feel about him? Obviously, they just gave him the power slide a lot of love. Base, they gave him some new talents that allow him to power slide through walls. But in order to grab the power slide through the walls, I think that's level 7. You have to give up. Hammer on. I haven't played him at all yet myself, but
he's
level 4.
It's level 4.
Yeah.
So you'd be giving up loudspeakers.
Mm-hmm. I think crowd surfer is insane. I think new ETC is fine. I prefer the stage dive style personally, although I don't think it's as powerful overall as having mosh pit, and like the potential of a mosh pit is too high for stage dive to be as good. I mean, right now, I think stage dive is the way to go because it's so much harder to get in range for the mosh pit, and that's what a lot of North America has switched to because you don't have the speed on Q. But I prefer having this style of hero in the game anyway compared to all in on mosh pitting, so I'm fine with it.
Like I saw quite a few like tweets and just the general sentiment of if you pick mosh, like you're doing it wrong. I don't think it's quite that bad. I think situationally, mosh is still a fantastic pick, but it really is situationally. I think the go-to is definitely stage dive.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of where he sits, I'm not sure. I feel like he's weaker than Chen, but he's still pretty respectable.
I agree. I think he is weaker than Chen on average. There is something to be said about having the global, and I think that's probably the redeeming factor over Chen, which is maybe as it should be. Like, if Stage Dive, ETC, and Chen, like, they kind of fill a similar role, maybe. I mean, they both kind of want to threaten backline. Like, Stage Dive actually lets you do that instead of being on the front line and contesting, positioning better. So, I think it's reasonable that you have to take the global into effect for ETC to be better.
I love his new kit, man. I'm glad they made Stage Dive a playmaker. Everything about the new ETC, based on the few things I've seen with him, is just like more fun, right? The old ETC, there are so many moments where it's like, does he hit the mosh? And that gives the viewer anticipation, which is a good thing, but it also feels like, oh, they only won the fight because of that mosh. And that's fine. But I like stage dive just feels cool. It feels like ETC is that unique global presence tank that Dahaka isn't fulfilling right now. It gives him that omnipresence, which is scary. And I just remember some of the early like boss deals, where he's flying on Cursed Hollow and stuff. So I'm excited to see what people can do with his new kit, because he definitely still seems like a really strong hero.
I'm really glad they moved speed on Power Slide, by the way. Like that talent was actually terrible for the health of the game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
there's easy mode.
I feel like quite a lot. There's a lot of talents in there's a lot of abilities in the game that are far, far too fast to react to.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we're seeing those less now. But just in terms of like 1v1 outplays, it was super hard to do anything about the ETC slide, because since it was so quick and so wide, he literally just had to completely misplay to actually miss it. Whereas now, if you do a cool juke, and he slides from max range, you can definitely dodge it just with movement. So I think that's actually really good.
I agree.
As far as tanks go, I'm just thinking about this. I mean, this is not necessarily pertaining to response time, but I'm thinking about like some of the other tanks. And Zarya, how do you guys feel about her heroic choices? Do you guys like the knockback more than Graviton Surge? Because the knockback seems like it's really good for just zone control.
I think they're both excellent. I think the cooldowns are appropriately weighted. I think Expulsion Zone is actually good and probably a little better overall on average than Graviton Surge. That's my impression, but Graviton Surge has that potential factor, I want to say.
I actually really like what they did with Yotes. I think they're well balanced for each other. We've been calling Expulsion Zone Holy Ground.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've got Holy Ground.
Yeah.
It basically is Holy Ground.
Yeah, it's like ranged Holy Ground, so it's really good. And only 45 seconds is like perfect, just like Dunk said.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to just show you guys how ridiculous this game seems on like a faster game speed. It's actually just so silly with no cooldowns and fast game speed.
See, I was hearing keyboard presses, and I was wondering what was going on. And now I never know.
Uh-huh. Jake's just trying to give Blizzard ideas for the brawls. All right, guys, 10 ETCs, no cooldowns. Let's go.
on fastest game speed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, and you start with the encore. Is that what it is? Yeah, you leave the amp behind encore. That would be so funny. Okay, well, ETC, I'm having fun with him in that regard, at least. Zarya, we just talked about her heroics, and I think we covered just about everyone in the PTR. Overall health of the game in terms of hero diversity and viability, where does it stand in your opinion, this patch compared to the last?
For me, I don't think I can answer that because I don't think it's even remotely solved yet.
Okay.
I've heard varying reports from different teams, and I've seen teams play so different stylistically that I am not certain what's the strongest, and I don't know if once we've played this patch or whatever for 3 weeks, assuming that we're getting closer to BlizzCon and things are more ironed out, I'm not sure what it'll actually look like, and it remains to be seen whether it's in a healthy state, honestly.
Bakes?
No, I pretty much agree. Right now, where it looks like it's heading, not a big fan. Like especially of the supports, but the general meta is definitely not figured out, and I feel like the diversity is pretty good. I feel like a lot of tanks are being picked, a lot of damage is being picked. Supports not so much, but I also think there's a good variance between comps. There's some double support. I actually hate double support, but there is double support. There's double tank, and there's also tank plus melee.
Are there still any burst comps that are really being run? Like, I'm trying to think. I've seen a lot of sustained overall fighting, and even in like the melee assassin tank matchup, like I feel like there's not really burst damage. Like that's the only avenue that we're really missing, other than Li Ming. But then it's usually not a whole comp based around bursting with Li Ming. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Like Leeming is playing that's poke burst.
Mm-hmm.
There's still Thor. There's still a lot of Thor. Comboing Sundering
Yeah.
with silence and things like that. That's pretty much the only thing left. There's not much Jaina. There's not much Greymane.
Yeah.
Feels bad, man. All right. Well, let's move on to HGC as our next talking point because it is well underway. So this is where if you're an esports fan and you're not up to date, you're going to experience some spoilers. So let's just get that out of there very quickly and move the discussion into HGC. So with HGC, we are just about there. Opening week is going to be towards the end of this month, and then BlizzCon is just about exactly a month out. So things are heating up very quickly, and there's only one team. I think it's Taiwan. Let me confirm. Taiwan regional. I think their grand finals is decided, and they just need to play that grand finals match. I would imagine it's very soon. Actually, it's in 4 days. So 4 days before Team Face Check and Please Ban Arthas, or Please Buff Arthas, do end up facing off to decide the final team. But in South Korea, we had our grand finals between L5 and MVP Black. And Bakery, you had a tweet basically said you feel the results of that matchup were caused by an inbred meta between the two MVP sister teams, and as a result, that hurt them as L5 went over both of them in the I guess it was the group finals and then the grand finals.
I think it was lower bracket finals.
Oh, was it lower bracket?
Finals. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I couldn't remember if it was a lower bracket or just a separate group. But regardless, L5 beat both of them. And I think in the MVP series, it was like the first 2 games went to MVP Black, and then L5 won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
That sucks. That hurts. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the state of Korea. Where do you think they sit, Bakery? They learned how to use Brightwing before you did. I mean, obviously they're pretty good.
I think Kalaris had a tweet, which I kind of agreed with and kind of didn't, which is Korea looks the weakest it ever has coming into a global. And I do agree that they look the weakest at playing the game, but I also feel like the other regions also look the weakest at playing the game that they ever have. Maybe that's just that we're learning more about it, so we're seeing more mistakes and we're seeing there's more players coming into the game. But yeah, I think in general the level of play isn't as high as it was in the past.
Huh.
In terms of the 2 teams going to BlizzCon, I think they are the favorites for the top 2. For me, I think MVP Black will be the stronger team at BlizzCon, despite them losing the finals. And I'm actually pretty confident against L5 in terms of like the Dignitas matchup.
Is that because of the way they draft, or why are you confident?
I think L5 is a team that plays off of individual ability and a very good understanding of the basics and the fundamentals of the game. I feel those are also our strengths. So if we get into a matchup with them, it's very much the better team wins. And I'm pretty confident that if we step up, we can outclass them mechanically.
Wow. That's a bold statement. I mean, as the kings of Europe, it's great to hear. So let's talk a little bit about just the way they're drafting in Korea. I mean, obviously, you're talking about MVP Black kind of having their own meta with Miracle. Do you think that's kind of why we're seeing a bit of Artanis and Alarak attempted together, like this Artanis Alarak Malfurion? I haven't seen anyone else do it. It's theoretically it sounds cool. They're 1-1 in terms of their record in that series. How did you feel about that composition?
I feel like the story of the composition was very similar to the story of the series. It felt like MVP, they come into the finals and they've prepared well, as best as they could with what was given to them. They've clearly put a lot of time into these picks. They've played well around the picks. And the first 2 games, they've had a very convincing performance. But by the 3rd game, I think we saw L5 learn how to play against the meta that MVP brought. And there didn't seem to be a response from MVP. Like, the further the series went, the more it felt like L5 were the better team. In that series, like the first game, super easy for MVP. Then it was a bit closer, but still MVP. The 3rd game was very much thrown by MVP. They lost the final team fight, and the 4th game was similar, but it was definitely closer throughout the entire game. But it was still a final fight that MVP probably should have won that they did lose. And then the 5th game, it looked in favor of L5, and the 6th game, it was very convincing.
Interesting.
But I feel like, going back to my point about the inbred meta, I feel like MVP played against the team and they came up with these picks, and the team that they played against had no response for those picks. And it's just the way that MVP scrim, and they always have. They've always scrimmed one team, they've always locked others out, and they've come up with their own thing. Mm-hmm. And we saw in the 2015 Super League finals, they got really, really screwed by some false information about specifically Butcher, but also their backline picks. And I think the same kind of thing happened, where they scrimmed one team specifically, that team didn't have an answer, and when the time came, L5 did have an answer.
It reminds me of the old C9 tempo. There was a period in time in the early state of NA where you guys were like kind of exclusive scrim buddies. You guys had your own meta, and then the rest of North America replicated whatever you guys did. But that's not what's happening in Korea. Everybody else is just like, okay, you guys can play that way. You can develop your own little meta, and we're just going to play, what we want. And obviously seeing it collide, it's pretty interesting because looking at, one of the big talking points we've had on the show, and especially when we have the two of you on together, we end up talking about supports a lot. And just if we look at the breakdown, it's pretty much Malfurion, Brightwing, Ariel with one Uther and one Karazim. There's some.
Are you talking about
just support?
Are you talking about the MVP Black L5 thing?
Yeah, in the grand finals of Korea.
What I find interesting is that L5 banned Illidan every game with their first ban. That's what I find interesting on both first pick and second pick.
Bakery, what do you think about that?
That's not a trend that I analyzed, I'm afraid, but the thing that I took from it was very much L5 were confident that they would win in a standard game, and it's a thing that Dignitas have done quite a lot. So I think I'm pretty informed about the Illidan ban. It's basically, you think you can win standard, you think an Illidan always brings a chance to lose, no matter what, just because if you lose a team fight, all 5 of you die.
Yeah.
So just banning it out. Just banning it out, playing safe, and relying on the skill and the map. To make you win.
Interesting. What do you think were the key adaptations, and what do you think in the series actually turned it around for L5? Because I don't think there's anything that's really obvious. They they stopped giving up Malf in game 3 and 4, but even then they gave it up game 5, 6. I don't see any one thing that's oh, here's the specific thing they changed.
I think the Medivh into Alarak was a pretty smart adaptation on the Dragonshire game. Although, honestly, that was some terrible Medivh play for the vast majority of the game. But he really turned it around in the final fight, which was the one they won, and then they just caught. It was a really nice call, actually. They went directly through the keep wall, backdoored the keep, and then took the core down. But after that, we saw... Was it a Zeratul in game 4? It was again, I think it was a pretty nice adaptation. Although MVP ended up playing Tyrael, which was what I liked about the Zeratul.
You like Zeratul into the Tyrael? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And then game 6, we saw again the Alarak. And this time it
It was with
was.
Well,
Artanis Mouth.
Game 6 was with Artanis, and things happened.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
it's
I
similar
don't
to
know.
the Game 2 draft. They tried to make it work. They just swapped out Vala for Hammer, or Hammer was in Game 2, and then in Game 6 was Vala, and then Li Ming
Yeah.
and Falstad.
Hmm.
It's cool. It's a cool draft though. But obviously, considering that's Braxis holdout versus Infernal Shrines, they function a little bit differently.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's actually one thing that we completely skipped over in last week's patch. So we'll talk about that after we wrap up this section up. Is the new map Warhead Junction, but just to give viewers something to look forward to. But yeah, I mean L5 taking the victory. They'll be the number 1 seed for Korea, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how they did it last season. Just want to confirm. They will be the number 1 seed. MVP Black will have the number 2 seed, which means MVP Black has to play 1 extra day, essentially, in opening week, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. So an extra day of rest traveling in from Korea is going to be beneficial no matter what, no matter how you look at it. And that's an extra day of hiding strats and scouting the enemy teams. And they lock in obviously they had already earned their spots for South Korea. Now, just to give you guys the full update, if it's kind of hard to keep up to date with all of the regions, but basically here's the breakdown for what we're looking at BlizzCon. It's going to be Team Dignitas, Fnatic, Astral Authority, which was Murloc Geniuses. Astral Authority released their old roster and then picked up Murloc Geniuses. So that it's going to be hard for a lot of us to adjust. I know as a commentator, that's going to be interesting for me to just immediately drop all these names and move them over, but good for Astral and the team, because I'm sure the players are benefiting from that. Denial, Zero, Panda, Super Perfect Team, L5, MVP Black, Burning Rage. Taiwan will be decided in 4 days. Imperial Pro Gaming and Reborn. So those will be the top teams going in the top 12 that will all be traveling to BlizzCon, playing an opening week. But I did hear rumors of there being visa issues for the Chinese teams. And I don't know that there's been an official announcement, but I did see some rumblings on the Twitterverse, as I think every global that is out of Asia has had issues getting Chinese teams here to the US, which is unfortunate. Very unfortunate. So hopefully that works out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Super Perfect Team who couldn't come. We haven't heard anything about Zero yet, as far as I know. So hopefully that's going well. Or actually, in my case, hopefully it's going badly, so that we get a weaker Chinese team. No, but seriously, it's I'm pretty hopeful for Zero. I've always been impressed by them, but they've never seemed to show up for some reason. So I'm pretty happy they finally made it to a global. I'm excited to play against them.
Well, there's something else I think you're excited about, Bakery. We're just talking about, all these teams at BlizzCon, and, Dignitas is one of them. How is Dignitas preparing for BlizzCon?
We've come up with a fairly unique strategy, and I'm pretty excited to announce it. We're going to be boot camping in Korea for about 10 days before BlizzCon. We're going to fly over to Korea pretty soon. The date's not exactly nailed down yet, but most likely the 11th. And we're going to stay there for the 10 days until the 21st and fly directly over to BlizzCon.
Whoa, opening week is gotta be soon after that. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, the jet lag might be a bit awkward. But we really think this is the step that we need to give us the best possible chance at winning BlizzCon. Because as I've said, ever since we roster swapped Wellbe out, actually, the goal of this team is, and always has been, to actually win a global championship. And we will sacrifice everything for a chance to do that. And that's what this is.
That's awesome.
We are going to Korea to give us the best chance to win at BlizzCon.
That's amazing. I mean, I know StarCraft players used to do that before big events. They would go and they'd boot camp in Korea and get prepared. But that was an individual, right? Flying one individual is one thing. Flying a team of 5. And do you have a manager or a coach that's going with you as well? Because I know you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Meth is coming with us. He's going to be our clueless tour guide. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Very cool. Well, congrats.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, that's actually awesome.
Thank you.
I just booked my honeymoon flight. I'm going to London, so after BlizzCon, you'll have to come be my tour guide in London. But not as cool as Korea, that's for sure. Well, that's super hype. Really excited to see how BlizzCon all unfolds. Exactly a month away, more or less. And while we're on the topic of BlizzCon, we're gonna go full fluffernutter sandwich time, boys, and look at some of the early access sale items. Just because I just saw an ad for it, I don't know what that is, but it's adorable. StarCraft 2 Marine onesie for babies. Yes, a Hearthstone throw blanket. I already have the Alliance one. I don't need that. Oh, Diablo mounted bottle opener. I can put that on my wall. Oh, I'm buying.
That would get a lot of use at Jake's house.
I'm buying that. Oh, Corehound bobblehead, Cupid Deadly. Man, I'm rip my wallet as usual. Thanks, Blizzard. Thanks. I'm excited, man. I always spend way too much money on all that stuff.
Yeah, I love BlizzCon. So much hype. It's a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, we've wrapped up everything except for Warhead Junction. Warhead Junction is a brand new map. It's 3 lanes, tall, nukes. I'm sure you guys have all played it. Is it the largest battleground of the whole map pool? I believe it is.
I don't think we have actual statistics like from a map editor or something in terms of tiles, but it feels like the largest to me at least.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's the largest, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, though, Bakery, what was the statistic? The showdown, 5 games, where you guys played back and forth when the map was brand new. The highest the game went was level 18 in any of those 5 games, right?
Yeah, it was 18 to 16 every single game.
So when you consider the scale of a map, if it's the largest map, you would think, oh, the map's probably going to go a little bit later. Do you think where do you think the issue lies? Like, are the nukes just doing too much guaranteed damage, or why are the games ending so quickly?
I think they made a very conscious effort to reduce the game time for it being such a large map. They've always hated how Garden went to the late game so often. Players always hated Garden, obviously. So I think they tried really hard to make it a fast-paced map, even though it was huge. And I think they went a bit too far, because the nuke damage is kind of crazy, and it's also not especially fun either, at least to me. Like, it's always about just nuking keeps, and then as soon as you nuke keeps, if you get a single pick, you can core with 2 nukes. If you get 3 nukes, you can core anyway. So,
do you think there should be some kind of way to try to incentivize nukes to be used in battle?
I think Misfits actually were pretty proficient at using nukes in battle when we played them in Nexus games. But for me, I think it should be definitely disincentivizing using them on the core, because getting backdoored with nukes on core isn't fun at all for either side, it feels like.
That's how we lost our chair league game last night too. It felt bad, man. Felt really bad. Like, oh, they have 3 nukes and they just walk at our base. Cool. Like, it's awkward.
Wait, one thing as well, actually, I do think there's a level 14 power spike, which isn't actually very well communicated to the players. So in my early games, people still aren't recognizing this. But basically, when you hit level 14, the nuke damage increases by 50%. So it just becomes way, way more powerful.
So you can hold a nuke 13 to 14 and then drop it.
I thought it was at 14 minutes, not level 14. Is it level 14?
Oh, wait, did I say level 14?
Yeah,
I meant
said
14 minutes.
Okay,
I definitely meant 14 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was confused.
So, but you can hold your nuke, and at 14 minutes, it will level up the nuke.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary.
Why do you think they chose to do at 14 minutes such a large step rather than a gradual increase from, say, minute 10 to 16 or whatever? Like, why do you think the design behind that is?
Well, that was actually the point I was about to make. Is like, it's just one huge step. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I think that's actually one of the bigger issues that I have with the map. As for the rationale, I really can't even begin to guess.
Interesting. Trying to think if any other map objectives scale like that with like a big step. I don't think they do. Like I know Tomb of the Spider Queen has breakpoints where like the scaling changes the steepness, if that makes sense. Like if you look at the slope of the power level of the spiders, like it's a low slope and then at a certain time point it gets steeper and then steeper again later, if I remember correctly. But I don't think there's anything that just has like one big step just off the top of my head. I know Sky Temple is like a gradual increase. Yeah, I don't know.
So that's really interesting. So if you guys had 2 tweaks that you could make to the map, 1 weekend or 2 weeks in when you think of PTR, it would be reduce overall nuke damage and make it scale like 10 to 16 rather than, or something like that, rather than just like, hey, level, like, chat just mentioned that APM used a nuke at 1357 the other day. And like that just fundamentally is like, wow, you literally did 50% less damage than if you had cast that 3 seconds later. And that feels weird, right? That doesn't feel, and the game doesn't announce. The game doesn't say.
No, it doesn't say nukes leveled up or anything.
Because you think about Towers of Doom and
oh, dude, what if there was like a StarCraft? Like there was like a base doing research. Like what if you could see a progress bar of nuke damage research and it's like nuke upgrades available? Like the 1, 2, 3 from StarCraft. Like
that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool if it's like research complete kind of thing. If there's like a notification that they present similar to Towers of Doom, where the portals open, where they like announce it, they're like, aha, we're opening.
Oh
these
yeah,
portals.
Towers of Doom has
and
one step.
the towers are upgrading.
Yeah.
But that kind of different because they go from
it is
forts
different.
to keeps.
Yeah.
But still,
it's very similar.
there's still an announcement that happens, on towers. So, that would be thematically really cool if they did the upgrade complete thing, though.
And it would make a lot of sense. Like you said, what would my 2 changes be? Like I think 3 steps for upgrading nukes with announcements, and then reduce nuke damage to core would be my 2 fixes.
I can agree with both of those. I think other than that, I like the map a lot. I mean, I think thematically it's great.
Oh, it's so
they just need time to tweak the actual numbers and mechanics of Brax's Holdout and Warhead Junction. I think they just need a little time to refine the gameplay. I think they launched in a great state, like thematically and aesthetic wise.
I think you should still be able to bribe the bosses, though. I like that.
No. Those bosses are actually really good, by the way. I think the Braxis Holdout boss, like the Viking, is terrible. It's the Archangel, actually. Yeah. It's terrible. It's really terrible. But the Swarm hosts are insane.
I think the Viking is probably really good at low levels, though, just because like if you're not paying attention, you stand into its blast, it absolutely melts you, and it's super funny watching people do it. But yeah, no, I can definitely see why you think it's so bad.
The Baneling Swarm is sweet too. The fact that the boss actually does a Baneling Swarm thing on Warhead Junction is like super cool.
Dude, I watch people die in that boss all the time too. It's so funny. But okay. Any other tweaks you could think of that irk you with that map?
I don't know. It's hard to say without seeing the nuke stuff refined a little bit, specifically like the backdoor core potential. I think if that got tweaked, then the map experience would be way different.
All right, I'm loading up. So, Bakery, talk about how nice Dunk's beard is for a minute. I wanted to share something.
It's a really fantastic beard, actually. I really like. It's kind of bordered by the 2 like headphone wires. So it's like a really
nice
smooth
framing.
cut.
Got some nice framing. Yeah.
Okay, I've literally only played this map on the PTR. Where's the teaser? Isn't there like a hero teaser on here? I know they hit some things. Now I wanted to talk about like the new hero reveal tomorrow.
Yeah, the stream.
There's a Facebook stream.
Yeah, Samwise.
It's Samwise, who's never done anything Heroes related publicly, which is really exciting. Samwise is a legendary artist that has been around for a long time, in the Blizzard realm. gosh, this map is so pretty. I actually haven't just gone around for a tour yet. I love the Zergling skulls and all the little details. The minion waves are gorgeous. Obviously, we've seen that, but there's a few things that I've seen in recent videos. So the new Heroes Brawl video, I believe Deathwing is in the background, and that could imply like a Deathwing Brawl. I think, I don't quote me on this, but if I'm not mistaken, they basically said in an interview that Deathwing would never be a hero, right? They said he's just too big, it's too hard to do, it just doesn't make sense. So I was thinking that like, oh, Deathwing would make perfect sense to be the theme for a brawl. But I think when ETC's on the screen, you can see Deathwing's head. But I thought there was some kind of thing here. Next to Stitches. Where's Stitches? Stitches moves. Stitches is up here. I've just read Twitch chat. It said next to Stitches. I don't even really know what I'm looking for, to be honest with you.
I think it's like one of those graffiti style silhouettes, from what I remember.
There's a Hydra. There's a lot of graffiti, which is cool.
Yeah. I think. I don't know. I think they said Deathwing isn't going to be a hero soon or anything. Like, I don't know if I agree with the whole can't scale them down thing, but I do think the way they executed Chromie was odd. Like, the dragon being in gnome form 24/7, so I don't think they would do that again, whatever they do.
Well, you don't think they would do the aspect, like make a dragon aspect? Gosh, I didn't make it.
Like, I don't think you could do an Alex Strasser or something and have it be in human form the whole time. Like, I think
there has to be like a dragon ultimate or something like that.
Yeah, there has to be something.
I don't. Oh, that's Arturus Manx? That's cool.
Jake is just nerding out over this.
I'm literally just going on a journey.
Exploring, dude.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think it's like 8 a.m. Pacific tomorrow, where Samwise is going to be hopping on Facebook Live and talking and showing off some artwork for the new hero. The rumored one is Samuro. That's what everyone's talking about. I think there is supposedly a clue in this map somewhere. I saw it on Reddit.
Wait, is that it? It kind of had a flag there.
There's a flag?
Yeah, the graffiti thing.
Wait, this guy?
Oh wait,
no,
I
don't. I think that's like Rainer or something.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a flag at least.
Yeah,
that's as close as we can get, guys. We did it. No, I think it. I don't know. It should be exciting.
That's the main
fun. I wonder what else they're announcing it. Like, do you think they'll have something extra to announce at BlizzCon? Is the big question, because they announced they revealed Brawl and like made it official right before BlizzCon, which seems weird if you don't have anything else to announce. So I imagine they have to have something big.
So here's my
that.
Go ahead, Bakery.
Okay, so I thought that, but then I thought, wait, but then it would be announcing Brawl 2 BlizzCons in a row.
Yeah,
that'd be a bit weird. So maybe it's just that. But no, I'm actually pretty excited. I think what Jake was saying about Brawl, I was thinking the next map is going to be Warcraft themed, and they'll announce that at BlizzCon.
That'd be cool. Warcraft and Overwatch are the two universes we don't have maps for yet.
Right.
But they haven't done themed maps outside of like the package deals yet. I wonder if they would be willing to do like a singular like Warcraft themed or Overwatch themed map outside of a package.
I don't think they
specific
would.
Event.
They've done
No?
They've done the Diablo invasion. They've done the Warcraft invasion. I feel like if they just released a Warcraft map, it would feel like it's not getting the same kind of treatment as the other IPs. And
Interesting.
That would
I
go ahead.
I also sorry, it happened again. I don't know what's going on. I also read an interview though where they said they really disliked the gap between the maps. It's been almost a year since Towers released.
That's true.
And that was because they were saving it up for this event.
Yeah.
So I think they said in the interview we wouldn't want to do this again. Like we really don't want to save up these maps for the events.
That's interesting. I mean, it has been like a long time, and I think everybody's feels really refreshed having 2 new maps. Like it's nice. It's like having a new map. They actually had a poll on their Twitter, like, what are your favorite things about the whole event? And I think the maps was by far the largest upvoted thing on that thing. But no, in my opinion, I'm really I'm almost concerned. Right. I expected like to actually get the update on Arena at BlizzCon. I expected to have like a bunch of hero reworks and stuff. And I feel really spoiled right now. We just got an astounding amount of fantastic content. We just got 2 great maps, new heroes, hero reworks that were, really nice, great balance updates. The MVP system, like we just got an obscene amount of content for the game, and now we're getting Heroes Brawl. Like I was genuinely shocked when I looked at my phone. I went to Salem Village, like where if you guys don't know American history, basically this is where there was like hysteria that there were real witches and they all got hung, and it's basically like a very tragic event that happened, but the town is all like witch themed and stuff, and it was really kind of fun to bring my brother and his fiance up there for like Halloween stuff. But anyways, I'm out there and I get this notification that like Heroes Brawl's announced. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. So the reason I'm concerned is because like there have been BlizzCons where like Diablo's gotten no news. Like last BlizzCon, Diablo hardly even had a presence, and it's like, did they like legit just get all the Heroes content out there so that they can make all these other big announcements for other titles and not have the hero stuff get buried? Like that's kind of what it's either that or they've got something even bigger or they've got an obscene amount of stuff ready. So I really don't know. I'm hopeful for more stuff, but at the same time, I'm prepared for there to be almost nothing at BlizzCon because of the amount of content that they just gave us, because I sincerely feel spoiled. So that's my stance.
Interesting. I have faith still.
I don't even, it's like, I'd be disappointed, but at the same time, I wouldn't feel right feeling disappointed with the amount of stuff that we're getting right now, you know?
Yeah.
Like, even if they just showed off like 2 new heroes or something, but I don't know what they could do to one up a new game mode that they're releasing literally. I mean, yes, technically it's last year's announcement. And we're getting it like a month before BlizzCon, so that does feel odd, but I don't know. Baker, you just seem sad now. You're like, Jake, don't tell me there's a chance there's nothing.
I was so excited, and then Jake's like, but maybe they just don't want heroes to get buried. I'm like, oh, wait.
Well, I mean, because Blizzard has so many IPs
smart,
now,
actually.
like with Overwatch announcements, and like I sincerely doubt there'll be a big WoW announcement. Like maybe they'll show off the next raid based on BlizzCon history. When an X-Pack releases, that's usually what it is. It's like, okay, you guys just got this content. Here's the next raid that'll come after this. We're not going to show an expansion. Maybe they'll have a teaser of the next Warcraft movie. Maybe they'll have something for Diablo, like a big patch. Maybe StarCraft is seemingly like done, but Overwatch, who knows what they'll have for it. That game is like, it's the hotness for Blizzard right now. It really is. And there will be a Cardstone update. I can almost promise that. When's the last one that came out? Like you look at the timeline, it just makes sense. And they just did a balance patch going into BlizzCon for Cardstone, which is great. But who knows? I don't know. I'm just trying to keep my hopes realistic, I guess. There's a thread on Reddit talking about special heroes that he has like a map changing one. Oh, for the new Brawl. Oh, I see what he's... So somebody's suggesting that there will be a hero akin to Abathur or Cho'Gall at BlizzCon. I guess that makes sense, since they want an open floor where they can really talk about the mindset behind those heroes. That's what they did with Cho'Gall. They really were able to... Like, BlizzCon is the one time where the devs really can just sit down and talk about their thought process to an open audience and almost have a panel behind it. So that makes sense if they were to do something... unique.
Yeah.
one of the earliest concepts that we came up with on Town Hall Heroes was Ragnaros as a hero. And he's like literally bound to a lane, like almost like Abathur, but like he could like have like literally an ability that scorches all minions in the lane and does damage to the whole, like every minion that exists in that lane and stuff like that. But I'm just trying to think of what other kind of weird heroes there could be. That would be cool. I want Rag as a hero.
I think everyone wants Ragnaros as a hero. But there are only so many heroes and only so much time.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. Oh, and someone else just mentioned this in chat. The potential of like Brood War HD and Warcraft HD and all of that kind of stuff. That's the other big thing that they could be like, trying to avoid overlap with, because this is the StarCraft team that makes heroes, which means that's the RTS team. And if the RTS team, Team 1 at Blizzard, is in fact rebooting like Brood War or Warcraft as rumored a few months ago, that's, that could be something they want to put a lot of emphasis on. But once more, just this is full on my theory. Bakery's sitting there just sad, like, God, BlizzCon's ruined. Jake, thanks. There very well could be a monster update from Blizzard. I have no idea, or it could just be like the previous BlizzCons where they're just like, hey, look, we've got these 3 new heroes. I think first BlizzCon was Vikings, Jaina Thrall, or 2 years ago at least, and then this past BlizzCon was Lunara, Greymane,
And
Cho'Gall. So this year will be Cho'Gall. You play it's 2 people that play 1 hero. Vikings, 1 person that plays 3 heroes. It's gonna be, I don't even know, man.
2 players that play 2 heroes, PogChamp.
But you have to pick them together.
Wait a sec.
Since last Town Hall, PPL has completely died. Has it? Is PPL already dead?
Really?
I was never that involved in it, so I don't know for certain, but I think it's the same thing that happens every time there's like an exclusive league, man. People get really hyped about the launch or whatever, and then realize that it's not actually any better than matchmaking. And maybe matchmaking, there's a lot of math and algorithms behind it. It probably actually works okay. And then, when there's like people have this illusion that there's more on the line or whatever in those leagues, and then they tend to get saltier and there's difficulties. So yeah, I think it's just a difficulty of making an online like community like that.
Feels bad, man. I think it's already tough because there's so many people trying to do that. If PPL is in fact dead, feels bad. But all right, well, I can hear my waifu, which is, again, I can actually see that. Yes. I know that she's here. That means food's ready. So I'm starting to get antsy. I'm just going to be real straight up with everyone here. I'm gonna open the floor to you guys and to chat. We're gonna have some open questions with the Twitch chat, and Bakery and Dunk, if there's anything that you would like to present or discuss, or some wish lists for BlizzCon as we are just about a month out. Now is the time.
I didn't know I needed to prepare wish lists for this show.
Yeah, man. I mean, you don't have.
No
We can do it
one
next
told
week.
me.
We can do it next week.
Okay, so this is a fun topic. It's not especially Heroes related, but maybe it's interesting. So, if they were to ever re-release Warcraft 3 or Brood War,
Oh god.
if they did it 2D, exactly the same style, like kind of 2D top-down movement, very very blocky, then it would never be the best game that they possibly could have made, because it will always be clunkier and more awkward. But it will be faithful to the originals. So the pros would be happy, but the casual fans probably not so much. However, if they remade it and they like fully 3D engine, the best game that they could possibly make at the time, then the casual fans would be very happy. But the pros would be distraught because it's not the same game. It's not a remake. So which one would they do?
All right, so
would they do both?
It's really this is a really tricky question, and it's probably the hardest question for anyone that's ever trying to make a remake. For example, Halo, actually they did a remaster of Halo 2, and Halo 2 had a bug called BXR, where basically you can spam your autos. You can remove any kind of cooldown on your auto attack or your melee attack. I say auto attack on your melee attack, and basically just like double auto or double melee and kill someone very quickly. And that was a fundamental like advanced technique that made the game more competitive. And there was a lot of other small things. Overwatch had a lot of quick scoping with Widow, where you could just snipe and reduce the animation that they took out very quickly in the alpha. But those kind of advanced techniques are largely what makes a lot of esports what they are. And I come from Melee. Melee, a lot of what Melee is inherently due to bugs and things that are discovered due to various momentum things. Like, although L canceling is a high skill thing that was built into the game, wave dashing, not so much. And if they were to ever make Melee HD, I can say straight up, if they did not honor those bugs exactly the way they were, no one would accept the game. So I'd say that is pretty darn accurate for Warcraft 3. Now, or Brood War. I think the one place where there's a bit of leeway in like something like Brood War, and again, I don't come from a competitive background of that game, and someone that's like a diehard RTS guy might argue with me and say I'm completely wrong, is in the actual multi-box, or the way that you can select units. Because in those games, you could select, I think, a maximum of 8 units, and
12
and
Brood War.
there was
12
no I don't know if it actually showed you on the screen how many you selected, or I don't think you could create hotkeys like Control 1, Control 2, Control 3 to show you
no,
that you had 8
you
units,
could.
but it didn't show you, right? I think that
it didn't show you the hotkeys. Yeah,
right.
correct.
But so I think by having like like updating the UI slightly to make it more intuitive, to show like your Control 1 group is these 8 units, your Control 5 is these structures, and so on and so forth. I think you can update that kind of stuff. But I don't think you can really change the gameplay. Your mutas still need to be boxy as all hell, right? Your mutas need to be hard to control. Your dragoons need to walk like, drunk oafs that
All
really
get
have
stuck
no
on each
idea where
other.
they're going. Like, and that's the only way to really capture it.
Yeah, I wonder if you were going to make a remake, I wonder if it would be better just to make like the straight up Brood War HD remake and like just accept that it's not a modern game. It's just there as like a tribute to esports and the greatness and that sort of thing, and like that's okay. It doesn't actually need to be a modern game that is modern playable by modern standards, etc. Like I think it's okay for something like that to exist. And I think the backlash from that would be a lot less than the alternative where you actually update things. So I think that would be the route that I would suspect if it was actually happening.
The thing for me is in the original Brood War, I played it quite a lot, and you could only select a maximum of 12 units. And you couldn't select any more. And StarCraft 2, obviously, they took that away. You could select
everything.
up to 196, I believe.
Oh, that's like your army.
Tons of tons. But essentially, if they were to remake Brood War and they didn't keep the 12 max units, then it would not be even similar in pro play. The whole point was having these boxes. But I also would not enjoy the game. I can just tell you that right now. Like, I wouldn't enjoy the game because it would be such hard work for me to learn to control Zerglings, which I don't want to do.
I hear you, loud and clear. It's difficult. Like, you, especially after like having the entire player base feel the comfort of the control that you can have in Star 2, and then to literally strip that away from them. I think fundamentally that's really tough. But like you said, the skill ceiling goes down like a lot.
I don't know.
Bakery.
I like.
Why do you do this? I'm installing Brood War now.
I never really, so this is kind of off topic. I mean, really still related to esports in general and competitive endeavors overall, but I never really understood the skill ceiling goes down argument in any game where it's two players playing against each other. Like, if you look at StarCraft 2, it's like very obvious, like the better player wins most of the time, or like it's cheesed out or whatever. But like, I don't really understand why the peak skill ceiling matters, since humans will never reach it for either game, if that makes sense. Like, why does it actually matter? Like, this, it's cool to have this like theoretical thing, like, bro, my game skill ceiling is way higher than yours, but like humans just don't actually reach like perfection. So I don't like, I don't really understand. I don't put water in that argument of like, oh, it reduces the skill ceiling.
But like when you start to taste that perfection, like in Melee, the skills players have just gotten better every year. Every year, the bar goes up, and every once in a while you'll see someone play, even if it's just for 15, 20 seconds, flawless, like just perfect play, and it's beautiful to watch. And like, you know, a trained Brood War fan and enthusiast that really watch a lot of Brood War can really feel that too, that perfect game. And
you can in StarCraft 2 though, so it's not like
but
there's
it's
such
not
a diminishment in skill ceiling that it doesn't exist anymore.
Yes and no. I mean, I agree with you, but I feel like Brood War has a different beauty to it.
Is that just because it's so much more difficult though?
Yes.
Not necessarily that like the ceiling is infinity, but the floor is so high to even execute the game that like that's the impressive part actually. Like Melee, the floor is absurdly high. Like you just look like an idiot if you play Melee and you're bad. Like you're not even playing the same game.
Yeah.
You're just not. You're just like a little kid messing with the controls, and a real player is playing, and you won't be playing the same game. Like I think it's actually the skill floor being really high that's impressive about those games.
For me, it's not about skill floor or ceiling. It's about there is a 1v1 between the players within that aspect of controlling the units. It's not so much that making the game easier is a bad thing. I think it's not. I completely agree with that argument. But removing an entire facet of the game, like this battle against the controls and the battle against your opponent who's also battling the same thing in a fight, was beautiful. I think that's the main argument, is removing an entire aspect of competitive play rather than just reducing the overall skill cap.
Yeah, and I think this relates to Heroes a lot because of how people argue like removing a last hitting, right? Like diminishes the skill ceiling. But like I think in a way, I mean, you can argue that it does, but at the same time, that's just like a behavior. It's like a tax. Like you have to do X behavior Y times or you lose the game. Like I don't think those necessarily improve the game, although I appreciate your argument for like things like Brood War and Melee, where like there's some beauty in micromanaging those controls and teching and stuff. I think it's just like kind of an interesting discussion to have.
Gosh, should we just start like a generic esports podcast where we just talk about like game theory and like, God, I like.
I'm up for it.
I like talking
Let's go.
about TownHall Blizzard. Baker, you got to follow Cardstone now.
No, I'm out.
That's where he draws the line, man. Don't worry, I'll carry the Hearthstone and make MTG references and talk about probabilities and stuff 24/7. I think there's so much about card game probabilities like and Hearthstone that like apply to other games that people just don't respect.
Dunk, I just bought new Magic cards. My buddy got married on the same day as me. Well, he's actually more of a friend of a friend, but I went to a stag party regardless. And it was at like a card shop, and I ended up buying Magic cards. So next land we're at,
slinging some spells.
We're gonna sling some spells, man.
All right, man.
We're gonna slingus dingus. Well, that was a fun little discussion about Brood War. thoroughly enjoyed it myself. Obviously, that's anticipation. If you guys are just tuning in a little bit late, we were talking a lot about expectations for BlizzCon. And one of the things that has been rumored is Brood War HD. Rumor came out of Korea. And, a lot of different people are really excited. I've spoken to people from Team Liquid. I've spoken to big StarCraft personalities. But they're also like, there's no actual like merit to the rumors, right? It's just kind of like this big hopeful, like, how great would that be? So, but there was like a lot of job postings for like, I follow Blizzard job postings all the time. Years ago for like HD remakes, that was the premise of the job. So who knows? I guess we'll have to find out at BlizzCon next month. That being said, it was a good show. We talked a lot about last week's patch, the Heroes Brawl, which I'm personally very excited for. HGC is shaping up to be one next, the next best event, really, or the best event, because I think the meta is just in a state of chaos still, as everyone's still trying to figure things out. And stylistically, each region looks very different. Yeah. Sorry for the lack of viewer questions. Bakery put us on just a nice little journey talking about Brood War. Bakery Kun, on that note, tell me all the words you know in Korean right now.
Okay, that was it.
Nice. Well,
we gave me a lot of meth for that one.
Yeah.
And when he obviously doesn't know any Korean, I'm gonna blame him anyway.
Good. You can give some proper shout outs.
Okay, cool. So first off, thank you very much to Team Dignitas. They've been hugely supportive of us, and sending us to Korea is amazing. So huge thanks to them. Please do follow me on Twitter for all things Heroes, Dignitas, and of course me. I've been trying really, really, really hard to make video content, like educational video content. You've probably seen it on Reddit. I'm calling it As Fast as Possible. It's very bite-sized videos explaining intricate things that are very easy to pick up and add to your gameplay. So, for example, the Hellbats, they're insanely easy to solo. You can just take them yourself between waves in a 1v1 in the bot lane on Warhead. Things like that. So please do subscribe to me on YouTube for that. The acronym is AFAP, as a lot of people have pointed out, and as I probably should have realized before now. But yeah, that's it. And thank you very much for having me on the show.
Oh, thanks for coming on, man. It's always a pleasure. How fast is he going to get these Hellbats? He's sitting here on Brightwing. He's probably talking.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of explanation before I start. You can probably skim through it.
Dunkus.
Not fast enough for Jake, man. You're too in depth, Baker. You need to shorten them for Jake attention span. But in all seriousness, I actually would like to recommend you guys go check out Bakery's videos. I think they're great, and definitely watch them. Like, I can't stress that enough. I think the content he's been putting out has been good. I also think McIntyre has been putting out good YouTube content lately, and in general, in the past, pros have historically not put out that much YouTube content for heroes, especially knowledge-based ones, like trying to teach people stuff. So definitely check that stuff out, guys. Support them, and yeah, that's about it. I think everyone's really excited about how crazy the meta is right now, and can't wait for stuff to settle down and just get ready for BlizzCon.
Baker,
I'm just going to jump in here. I'm going to second McIntyre, producing some fantastic YouTube content. Go subscribe to him.
What's your URL? Have you set it up yet, or is it still just gibberish?
It's the newer bakery. I put the link in chat, but it's probably long gone at this point.
Well, some people only listen, so the newer bakery. That's good. That's good. You have a different URL for all three of your things: Twitch, YouTube, and
pretty
Twitter.
Unlucky, actually.
Well, TN Bakery is at least close.
Almost there.
Awesome. Well, Dunk, I just wanted to give you a personal congrats on getting your booty legendary in World of Warcraft. I saw your tweet about it, so just get some tears, shed some tears.
Right.
And it's good to be back with Town Hall. So thanks so much for tuning in to episode 122. For me, shout outs to my waifu. Shout outs to everyone for supporting Arcane 8 and Bloodlust. Bloodlust 2, we're already in the planning process. We're going to try to make it better in every way, shape, and form. Have, real cameras, better lighting, more people involved. Obviously we're looking to have more funding for all of that. We're going to try to start the prize pool off at something solid and make it a truly amazing event that will not be until 2017 regardless. I can say that much. As for right now, everything is BlizzCon, and then after, it's Nexus Games is going on. I'll be casting that this weekend with Jay Howe, so we'll be back on track with that. That'll be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then, BlizzCon will be here before we know it. And I will then be going to London for my honeymoon, and right after BlizzCon. So I actually, it's going to be one heck of a ride. But after that, we'll talk more about Bloodlust 2 and what we want to do with that and how you guys can help make that the best thing ever, because I think there's a lot of potential to make Bloodlust a staple here in NA. And for EU, I want to run the equivalent as well. So high aspirations for Heroes next year, and we shall see. But on that note, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm gonna go eat some tasty food. Bakery's gonna go learn some Korean. Dunk's gonna go comb his beard, and we'll see you next time.